What is a core memory for you that kids nowadays will never understand? Going to the skating rink in summer camp with no phone and just living in the moment, watching all the other kids hold on to the wall for dear life. I can smell that skating rink. Playing with toys and not on iPads, although I played games on the family computer. Being bored in the car and just napping because we didn't have phones. Calling my friend on the landline and having to talk to her grandma who didn't speak much English in order to talk to my friend. Hearing dial-up. Playing your first home gaming system? Back in the 80s, computers weren't that powerful and the only games I saw were in arcades. Then the NES and Sega Genesis came out. Suddenly there was electronic entertainment and something you could do with friends at home. Nowadays, between smartphones, smart TVs, a multitude of game platforms, and even those table consoles kiosks at restaurants, there are gaming systems everywhere and nobody knows how to just be bored anymore. Practically shitting yourself with excitement as the now old school HBO theme music played at your friend who has cable's house because your parents were too cheap to pay for it. If you're out there were the days. Edit also, adjusting your TV's antenna to get better reception, and it never seemed to work right unless you were touching it until you got it just right. Getting burns in the center of your palms after playing those 1v3 Mario Party mini games that required you to spin the joystick as fast and as many times as possible to win. One was tug of war, and the other one was riding on a paddle boat while avoiding the shy guys stabbing you with spears. Since it's 1v3, it means that whoever was on the receiving end of the handicap had a much harder time winning those horrible mini-games. Not having a smartphone till I was a senior in high school and how my childhood was enriched without it, that in living in a large yard with a sibling and being able to free roam. How the family was more involved with each other's lives. It's sad that the technology that was meant to help us socialize has seemed to do the opposite. Now people are addicted to dopamine rushes that being on phones gives them. Rewinding a VHS tape, being impatient about how long it took. Lol. CD player never quite fit in my hoodie pocket. One of my favorite CDs had a scratch on it so it would constantly ski. Getting yelled at by one of my parents because I was using the internet. They picked up the home phone, had that screech in their ear from the connection. Saturday morning cartoons. The endless boredom. Waiting for the bus, riding the bus, going to a boring event, standing in line, having a multi-hours extended family visit, getting pushed out of the house by parents for hours at a time, etc. All without cell phones, tablets, just your mind, maybe a book. It makes you get very weird, introspective, and creative, not always in the best way. Waiting hours and hours to see a regularly scheduled TV show. Never had TiVo or something similar growing up. Had to tune in on the exact time it aired or you would miss out. Once we did get access to PST time zone channels for limited time, unlocking the ability to watch the show later on if you miss it. That was such a game changer, adjusting the bunny ears and tuning it ever so slightly until turning on the TV on Thanksgiving morning and getting to watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. Now if you don't pay for the correct streaming service you don't get to watch at all. Missed watching for the first time since I was a kid. Having privacy and being free. By free I mean, out in the world without fetters or tagging. No one knew where you were and you were free to make your own adventures day after day without interference or distractions. Helicopter moms ruined childhoods, a couple of them. Needing an actual memory card in the slot if we wanted to save our current spot in a game before proceeding. I'm bored. There are chores you can always do. Never mind, I'll just insert random activity instead. The true joy of Halloween. Hordes of kids roaming the streets. Going door to door with a pillow sack getting candy from strangers. As a kid born in the mid-80s I feel like I lucked out getting to experience peak Halloween. Watching TGIF on ABC every Friday, and staying up and watching Up All Night on USA every Saturday night. I remember being so nervous my parents would find out I was watching Up All Night programming. Lol, the good old days. Haha. My classmate bringing her Nokia phone to a school trip and showing it off to everyone when I was a kid. It was this yellow and black brick looking one and it had for the time great ringtones. Barely anyone had a phone back then. Not having to listen to other people's phone conversations everywhere. I'm sitting at a restaurant right now and there are two full-on arguments over the phone going on right now. There is no peace in public places anymore. Wrapping aluminum foil around the TV antenna to try to get reception. Also doing a little dance along with those rabbit ears trying to find that right spot. But if you changed the channel you had to do it all over again. Having a burning question that nobody in your house had an answer for, writing it down and looking up the answer in the school library the next day. I can't imagine what it would have been like growing up with Google calling collect, and instead of leaving your name on the recording, saying what time to get picked up or when you would be home, the person receiving the collect call would hear the message then decline the charges. Going to the video rental store with my family to pick out what we wanted to watch this weekend, then running to the grocery store to get the snacks to go with it. It was a weekly ritual in our family for years, having to blow into video game cartridges to make them work. Ah, the ancient art of digital CPR. Kids today will never know the struggle and the magic of bringing a game back to life with a well-timed breath. Not answering phone calls because you're almost out of minutes, turning the TV to channel 3 to play games, box TVs with both DVD and VCR player built in, also the SpongeBob box TVs, flying down the highway, sitting on the gas tank of my dad's KZ1000 working the hand controls while dad did the shifting. That's how I was taught to ride a street bike at 9 years old, riding my BMX to the library to look up Mark Hamill and Who's Who so I could write to him. Hilo, his publicist, probably mailed me back an autographed 8x10. May your aim be true. Navigating a sea of burning cigarettes. One wrong move and bam, flurry of sparks and there's a burn on your face. Growing up in a world where all the adults smoked and doors sucked. When I was a kid, you'd call a friend and usually their parents would answer and you'd say, "Is so and so there?" I recently realized that kids today probably don't have to do that. Going to Blockbuster to rent movies and games. Actually only having them temporarily and then having to take them back. Stupid online has ruined so many fun childhood things. After school or at the mall, putting a dime in the payphone and when your parents answer, saying "pick me up," then hanging up as fast as you can to get your dime back. Finding a Scooz mag hidden in the countryside somewhere. David Attenborough hasn't spent as much time crawling around woods and hedgerows as I did in my younger years. Watching 2 planes hit buildings in NY. Watched both during my orchestra and band classes as a 12-year-old. Met kids over the years who think it never happened. We had one of those big console TVs that were in a wooden enclosure. It was creepy back then. That TV was so old it would randomly turn on by itself. Getting on my BMX bike with friends in the morning and not coming back until it was either dark out or I was starving with no way of being reached. Waking up early on Saturdays to watch the new episodes of Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh! On Warner Brother Kids. If you missed it, you had to wait. Wearing those blue 70s flip-flops, holding cans of Coke in 2 fingers as we rode our 10-speed bikes in a gaggle of kids all over town. Getting home from school and biking to my friend's house and making sure I was home before my mom got home from work so I wasn't in trouble. Being in front of the TV at a certain time on a certain day to watch your favorite show, and if you missed it, you missed it. The feeling of dialing your home phone number into a rotary phone. I had a lot of 9s and 0s in mine. Easy to mess that up. Getting up at the crack of dawn on Saturday mornings to watch cartoons on any of the only 3 networks available: CBS, NBC, ABC. The milk being delivered and rushing it into the refrigerator. Household of 11 so we'd get a full milk crate every time. Boiling bath water on a charcoal grill cause the power's been cut for months and the school is complaining about their smell. Hanging out with my friends all day outside unsupervised. We went everywhere sun up till dinner and again after dinner, arranging to meet a friend at a specific time and place and then having no easy means of contacting them if they're late. The smell of burned popcorn as you walk through movie rental place picking movies mostly on how cool the cover looked. Taking the train to my grandparents' dacha, and the whole dacha experience. My US-born kids will never have that. Riding bikes with your friends, that feeling of freedom running around all day outside and just being a kid. Remember when we had to actually rewind VHS tapes with a pencil? Kids today will never understand the struggle. Watching my dad shovel coal into the coal room in the basement next to the coal furnace in northern Michigan. Watching the TV in the living room on a snowy day to see if school was cancelled playing outside in the snow. Having only 2 channels on TV. No remote control and children's television only on Wednesday afternoon. Racing back to the TV before the commercial ended and or having the good spot seat jacked by your siblings. The feeling of the spiral cord twisting around your fingers while you talk on the only phone in the house. No social media or other tech claiming your attention. Silence. It's a rare commodity in this day and age. Dinner at the table. Game nights. Not being able to talk on the phone because someone was on the internet. Walking home to and from school alone as a 6 or 7-year-old, never bothered by anyone or anything. Calling the operator or looking for the day's newspaper to find out show times for different movies. Dial-a-disc. I think the number was 160, but I may have misremembered, and that was for telegrams. The sprint to the toilet during breaks because the TV was not waiting for your pathetic bladder. Getting kicked out of the house until supper in the summer and having to drink from the hose. Sending like 10 ridiculous nudges to your friend on MSN. They were also excessively loud. Crying face. 4-player split screen playing GoldenEye 64 on a box TV screen. I think ours was a 32 or 36, leaving the house in the morning and coming home just before dark. At like 8 years old, tossing on a custom away status on AIM and needing to sign off so someone can use the phone. Watching TV shows live, with commercials, and having to wait months until the next episode. Figuring out that if I put tape over the squares of a cassette tape, I can record over it. Picking up the home phone to see if the other party was using it, before calling someone. Wandering around the kitchen wrapping myself in the phone cord while talking to friends. Having to go to a friend's house and ask their parents if they could come out to play. Waiting to hit the record button so you could tape your favorite song off the radio. Having to sit in the smoking section at restaurants so mom could smoke while eating. Trying to learn how to do things hands-on without relying on TikTok and life hacks. Staying up until 9:00 p.m. to watch George Lopez on low volume so my mom didn't hear. Waking up early in the morning on the weekend to watch a string of cartoons on TV. Learning how to work my dad's reel-to-reel, making recordings and splicing tape. Piling into the back of the station wagon and waving to the drivers behind us. VCRs, especially when you became old enough to record what you wanted yourself. Clocks. Knowing the meanings of 1/4 to, 10 after and 1/2 past, etc. Downloading music on Napster only for the phone to go off and ruin everything. Going to bed at night thinking the atom bomb would have gone off by morning. Each of my friends and I had 2 parents that were married to each other. Riding my bike to the beach arcade to play Street Fighter with my buddies.